Hello, I'm Christina.
And I'm Audrey.
Today we'll be voicing over this presentation created by Devaney, Isabella, and Katie.
The Mughal Empire was born from two great rulers, the Mongols and the Timurid Empire. The Mongols ruled most of Central Asia with a powerful prince named Babur. The Timurid Empire ruled most of southeastern region, then later expanded to South Asia. The leaders of the Timurid and the Mongols were both Muslims that were concerned about expanding the Islamic Empire.
Babur was a descendant of Genghis Khan who ruled for Ghana since he was a young boy. As he grew older, he became jealous of the grander cities, so he led an expedition. At first, he was unsuccessful in Samarkand, but soon conquered Kabul in 1504 and defeated the Sultan of Delhi in 1526. As a result of having military advantages, Babur was able to spread his empire very quickly.
Humayun is the son of Babur. He was soon left in charge of expanding the empire. His ruling lasted from 1530 to 1556, but Humayun spent 16 of these years in exile in Iran because he was banished there by Sher Shah Suri in 1538.
Sher Shah Suri was a military leader who became a governor of Bahir during Humayun's rule. He was not descendant of the Mughals, but the Mughal Empire is credited for the civilization advancements made. Sher Shah Suri instituted many processes of standardization like land taxes, a postal system, and so on. He also patronized mosques, forts, and other key structures. Sher Shah Suri died in 1545 and was replaced by Humayun after he returned from exile.
After Humayun's death in 1556, Akbar came to power. During his rule, he greatly expanded the empire and made great administrative strides by unifying the diverse elite and religious populations. Akbar utilized the existing Delhi Sultanate policies to include new regions. When Akbar expanded the Mughal Empire into Rajasthan and central and western India, the Rajputs newly incorporated. Under the teachings of Dina Ili, Akbar positioned himself as a political and religious master. Throughout this time, Akbar welcomed Hindu, Jain, Buddhist, Jesuit, and Zoroastrian influence, therefore crafting himself as a godlike and was labeled as an apostate.
After the death of Akbar, his son Jahangir took power. He ruled from 1605 to 1628 and followed in his father's footsteps by achieving great things. Shah Jahan was Jahangir's third son and one of the greatest kings in the Mughal Empire, and he created the Taj Mahal. In 1657, Aurangzeb imprisoned his father, Shah Jahan. He was considered weak during his reign of power.
Sher Shah Suri crafted an initial administrative hierarchy of authority that Akbar was able to easily refine when he came to power. Akbar, while working with local elites, crafted the Mansabdari system. A Mansabdari is a rank holder, a local elite. They received salaries. Unfortunately, the Mughal Empire grew tension, and that was not good for the economy. Shah Jahan sent the military to remove the Portuguese from the port.
The Portuguese were the first to set up major trade routes in India. In 1498, Vasco da Gama was the first Portuguese explorer to arrive in India. Traders from Europe, Asia, and the Middle East created their own companies in Calicut. The foreign presence brought new religions and cultures to India. Calicut was an important trade city due to the fact that it was connected to three other regions. In 1515, the Portuguese controlled most of the Indian state trade, especially the spice trade. Despite their fallback, the Portuguese were able to maintain their trade presence till 1961. The Portuguese took over most of the northern port of Dui, and the inaccessibility of Dui led to the European competition for the subcontinent.
When the Portuguese declined, the Dutch East India Company took its place. By mid-1600s, the Dutch had taken most of the Portuguese settlements. The Dutch controlled most of the Coromandel coast, granting them direct trade with Southeast India. Like the Portuguese, the Dutch also established a trade presence just in Djibouti. The Dutch also bought textiles and dyes like indigo from Asia. The Dutch built up trade and were quite popular.
Unlike the Dutch and Portuguese, the British established themselves by making several key decisions. In the early 1600s, Queen Elizabeth of Great Britain chartered the East India Company, or EIC for short, which was a joint stock company or an organization which falls between the corporation and partnership. The charter was risky, but proved to be quite rewarding. The charter established the EIC as a monopoly for 15 years, giving them control of trade. 15 years gave the East India Company plenty of time to establish trade without any competition. In 1612, the British and Portuguese were in a battle called the Battle of Swali. The British won the battle and they gained control of Indian trade. Thomas Roe, who was an ambassador for Great Britain, worked with the Mughals to give Britain permission to buy land and build factories in India. In 1640, they bought Madras, or small port town, and transferred to a trade city.
During the era of colonialism, the British expanded under the name of EIC, which led to the result of their control of the region and people. During the 17th century, the British acquired many cities and locations for future trade. In 1668, they acquired Bombay through a marriage transaction with the Portuguese. In the late 17th century, tensions developed between the EIC and the Mughals. At first, the Mughals welcomed British traders, but the British were expecting better profits, and the Mughals were not willing to pay more. By 1717, the Mughals and EIC reached an agreement.
In the 1750s, Suraj Udwala began ruling Bengal. As the British were growing, he felt threatened, which resulted in him attempting to assert his powers to bend the EIC's desires. Suraj, not being the friendliest of men, had a small amount of allies. However, in 1756, he attacked the British in Calcutta and imprisoned 40 English people living in Fort St. Williams, which killed many of those people. This attack on Calcutta gave Indians a name of being cruel and barbaric.
Robert Clive was a military general who wanted to punish Suraj for his actions. He began plotting Suraj's demise by negotiating with the elites beneath him. In 1757, Robert Clive led his troops into Plassey, where they killed Suraj. After Siraj's death, the British handed the ruling to Mir Jafar. However, he was not able to give everything the British wanted, therefore replacing him with Mir Qasim. After the Battle of Busar, the British replaced Mir Qasim with Mir Jafar once again. The Battle of Plassey represents when British began to rule India completely. Thanks for watching.
And we hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you.